So you guys can see, for me personally, until we trade past this, we're still bullish because we had this retracement, this, right now. We failed to make a higher high here, but this is the low that produced the high. So from a technical perspective, until we break below this, we are bullish. So until we trade past this wick, and I have this wick included because this is where we actually got the run on liquidity to push us higher. Like within here, we didn't really have enough orders to drive price up, but this was on election night or right around that time, just a really big manipulative candle right here. Like that, really big manipulative candle. Take the liquidity to absorb orders and push the market higher. So until we trade past this, I'm still bullish. But that's not to say that we can't be selling this because it's definitely in a downtrend at this point. Looking at this, you could have had this perspective. So you could have looked at this here. Now this didn't close above the body, so this is technically a swing. Then you push above, break structure here. There's structure within here, but if you want to simplify it, you break this low, the last low that produced the high, you break it here. Here's your pullback one. And then, so this is like a little trick that I do, I guess. It just simplifies things in my opinion. What you'll see is high, low, high, low, high, low, run the high, break above the high, goes back below. So for me to simplify it, I would just get rid of this here, also this here and this here. So now it turns into high, low, retracement, low. So you eliminate all of the choppiness and like the trendless environment that occurred right in here. So you eliminate that, you simplify your structure. Now, where do we create the new low relative to here? Right here, right? We break below and create a new low right here. And then we pull back and we've created another low. So I'm still looking to sell this thing, especially just because of how it's been moving. It's been moving like just nonstop to the downside. And this was actually, this spike was a test of this entire supply area. There was like no refined entry here. This is just a huge buy up before a sell-off that broke this structure here. So we get a retracement, not even a retracement. This is like a manipulative spike into that level. We get a spike into that level and then we dropped. So you could have sold it here, but your stop loss would have been like 70 pips. And obviously we don't want that, but we did make a new low. So looking at structure now, so here we had our spike up and then it did produce a new low. You can look at the structure here a couple of different ways. I did it the simplest way because it's just easier to be simple with it. But if you really wanted to, or if you really want to, you could look at this. This is a pullback, push down, close below this, and then this ran the high. But this is just kind of the idea that I talked about earlier, like simplifying it. You had this high with this low, this high with this low, this broke this high, but then it traded back below the low. So just simplify it and look at the extreme points. That's the best way to say it, honestly. Look at the extreme points. This is the extreme point. Or you could say, you know, it was right here. It really doesn't matter because it's obviously you're in a downtrend and you can see that this produced this new low. So for me, my region for sells is from here to here. So this is a huge supply region that you can actually play off of if you get a nice, you shouldn't just place a sell within here. The stop loss would be way too big, especially for me. Like I don't like trading with big stops. So this stop loss would be huge. Okay. Now trading into it, right? You can wait for a lower time frame break of structure to take you lower, because I think, now this is just obviously speculation, but that's what all analysis is. So I don't foresee us trading below this, because this obviously happened for a reason. You can see how manipulative this move was, right? Clearly, you had up, retracement, up, come all the way back down, look like you're going to break structure, run back up, run down, take out equal lows, took this one out by like a couple pips, what, like 7 pips, run the low and just flew, breaking this structure and creating this huge uptrend, right? So I would be surprised if we actually traded below that. And now within there, I forgot to point it out, within there, or next to that level, you guys can see, thinking of things from a fractal nature, you can see that we had a low here and that we had a low here. So we run these lows, and then this is the move that really gave us that push up. So I think we might be trading into here. So that was kind of what I was looking at, or where I wanted to be looking for sells. Now, like I said, this is a leg, this is a retracement, and what do we expect? We expect naturally a lower low, right? So I'm going to be trying to sell this, and there was an opportunity within here for a sell. So on the lower time frames, if you follow the structure, you can see on like the 5 minute. So this is the leg. Now this could have been viewed as your retracement, because for me at least, we were having, or like from my perspective, because everybody's perspective is going to be different. From my perspective, I was looking at this as a counter trend pullback, right? Let me change this song. So I'm looking at this as a counter trend pullback, right? Holding structure, holding structure, holding structure. Now we break, and what happens? We start trending down, right? So now we're trending down. I want to be looking for sells automatically. Now this is a leg, this is a pullback, right? In the structure, how you look at it, it comes with experience, but you want to simplify the charts. Like, you don't want to mark up every single swing high or swing low. That's not what you want to do. You want to simplify it. So this is the high that produced this low. Now you have all this crap within here, but it doesn't matter, right? This is how you should look at it. This high made this low, okay? Retracement, retracement, retracement. Now we get a new low right here. Where's the high that really produced this low? For me, it's this high right here. This is where we got that choppiness, right? That supply before we actually push lower. This is the fuel pushing us lower. So looking at this and zooming in, we can see we had highs run out. Now we had highs here, and then this is the last buy up before the sell off. And what else do we have? So we've created this new low here relative to this. So if I'm going to mark off the structure, this is what it's going to look like, right? It's going to look like this. We expect the pullback to go lower, right? So what can we see? We can see, and now this is the higher time frame low right here. So if you wanted to, you could have targeted this, because we should, from you know, an intuitive perspective, if we're in a downtrend, we should make a lower low, right? Compared to this. This is the low that made the high, push down, low, high. Now we're trending down with the smaller time frame. So we should anticipate the creation of a lower low, right? Mark off the low. What you could have done if you wanted to is you could have targeted down here, right? But you can see, and you could have gotten an even better entry. This is the trick I talk about. Barely missed. If you enter at the wicks, there's always price action contained within wicks on the lower time frames. So you could have entered on this wick if it had pushed up a little more. And on some brokers, it might have hit. That does happen quite frequently. You'll notice if you change data feeds, on some it will hit and on others it won't. So this is an example of that. It doesn't really matter because for me, I don't want to sacrifice. I mean, yes, the RR is like almost double, but I don't want to sacrifice getting into a trade because I want to be like stingy with my risk to reward ratio, right? So for me, this is a doji candle right here, not a perfect doji, but it is a supply candle. It's right at the top of this high that caused this low. So you would have marked this up right here and entered off that. Okay, now going to the 1 minute, you can see this. Here is the high that made, or the low that made this high. So when you reach this level, what do? You get a break of structure, and that's very clear by the fact that we impulsively pushed through it. We impulsively created this lower low. Now we pulled back and then we started trending down. And what do we trend down into? We trend down just below this low that functions as an area of liquidity, right? Because when we're in a downtrend, the most recent lower low, right, before the creation of that next one. So this lower low, we get a lower high. Now the lower low that we create over here, or the low that we suspect will be created, this previous low turns into an area of liquidity. And that's obvious by the fact that right when we take it, we reverse, right? We take it and quickly change direction. So this trade would have been a 1 to 9, and it made sense from every perspective. You're just following the trend on all time frames. Downtrend, right? Come up, break counter trend. This high made this low. You get an extended retracement, just meaning like this was a relatively sophisticated pullback in the sense that that's what I call extended retracements, just sophisticated. Instead of going like this, or rather like this, it was more like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, consolidation, right? Consolidation, but then you break this low. So all of this price action within here, like this always would throw me off when I was beginning as a trader. So that price action doesn't matter. What matters are the highs and lows that you form, right? This high made this low. This high made this low. So now we expect a pullback to create a new low relative to, well, this low here, right? Because this is the low. This high produced the low that traded below this one. So we expect a pullback up into somewhere within this range. And that's what we get. And honestly, it looks like this would have been an easy fib play, like a 78% to the -27 extension. Yeah, 78% test, -27 take profit, but look at how well it lined up with everything else I just talked about. It lined up with this supply candle that we got after we broke structure. It lined up with this wick low. So this trade was textbook for exactly, it was exactly what I looked for. And another reason or another piece of evidence you could have used while making your case for this to head down is that we had equal lows right here. So, and that's something I talk about on a lot of these calls is building a case. Like when you look at a pair, you want to build a case for it to do one thing over another thing. Like if it looks like if you want it to sell off because you have evidence, you should build a case with the pieces of information. Like if it looks like it's going to sell off, why? What makes this look like it's actually going to sell off? How can I be confident that it's more likely to go short than it is to go long? And that's exactly what I did here. Why was it more likely to go short? Because we're in a higher time frame downtrend, because we got a retracement leg here, because we broke counter trend structure and we were forming bearish structure on the lower time frames, which is order flow for the higher time frames. We're forming bearish order flow. So now we have bearish structure on the higher time frame, bearish order flow, and we're targeting a low. So you can be pretty convinced that you're going to go short. And that's exactly what ended up happening. So that's just a little trade breakdown for you guys. We'll see. Let's go through some of the pairs and see if there's anything we can catch. GU is starting to moon. What's gold doing? You guys can ask questions if you want. Like, by all means, I want you guys to ask questions. So now what you can do, even, so let's not be blind here. This high made this low. Are we going to respect up here and go short again? We could. Definitely we could. Or is it going to be a run on the low to pull back somewhere up into here? We just have to wait and see. But this high made this low. Let's see what we get on like the 2-minute time frame. Let's see if there's a good candle. 3-minute time frame. Let's see if there's a good candle. It could, price could respect this last up close before the down move. No doubt. We'll monitor this and watch it play out, and you guys can kind of see my logic. Of course, I'm going to wait for a counter trend break of structure here because it's just moving into that price. I'm not going to blindly place a sell. Yeah, I'm talking, yeah, supply and demand. That's how I trade personally. I trade supply and demand. So this is a supply level, which is apparent by the fact that we bought up to sell off, right? So we bought up to sell off. And then we mitigated this supply level with the move. So it could definitely trade into this break structure. Now it'd be great if we got something like this. Like that. If we got a push up, like not consolidating, but if we got a couple pushes up where we create some structure and then we actually break it. But you guys can see right now it looks like it's starting to push down because this is the overall supply level, or the overall like origin of this push down is right here. So that's why we're getting such a strong reaction from this level. We'll have to wait and see and monitor this and look for a BOS, because I'm telling you right now, I'm not just going to try to sell this. That would be really dumb. It's never wise to just sell something and hope that it goes down because you're trading within a higher time frame point of interest. I don't look at divergence really. Personally, it's just not. I mean, it is useful, but for me, I don't really trade it. Let's see what GU has going on. This is just ugly. Like when you see this, don't even try to trade this, guys. Honestly, like this is just stupid. We're within. I'll look at G-Chef in a minute, by the way.
Dr. Jabbar, help, please. Dr. Jabbar, help, please.
So we're trading within this, right? This demand. Now, this low broke this high, and it was a demand area. So this is like the last point of return, and price could still go long from this level. Definitely, it actually could, because from a technical perspective and from the definition of structure and how I apply it, this is the low that made this high, and there was a huge demand region, right? You can see that we consolidated and then we pushed above, breaking this structure. So we could still go long from down here, but looking at the lower time frames right now, like, this is something you typically want to avoid. This could be classified as a break of structure, okay? Right here, this could be viewed as a break of structure, but for me personally, this price action it's just too consolidated to really convince me that we're ready to go long. Could we? Definitely, yeah, we could. We might trade into here, because look at what happened. It's definitely a BOS, but just look at all this. Like, this high made this low. This high made this low. This high, for me, that's what really caused this low here. So if we don't break this, it's not gonna be bullish for me. Yes, this is a BOS within this leg down, but it's not enough to convince me that we're ready to go long. And it's just too consolidative all within here. It definitely could. It could go long, and we can monitor price, because you can, in this case, this high, you could argue made this low, which is equal lows. We pulled back here and we just broke this. So this here is a really big sell to buy, and look at what we did. You can argue, I mean, you can't argue, because this is demand. If you think about it from a bit of an advanced perspective, this is consolidation, manipulation, run the low, BOS right here, break the structure. You could come test somewhere within here, and especially, like, honestly, if we do get this, if we get a movement like this and we actually break structure, I would take that long. I wouldn't have an issue with that, but trading into it and not looking for the BOS would be dangerous, because this market here, this consolidation isn't favorable. It's just not. So we could get a push up. We'll monitor this. I always like seeing this, though, I will say. So we had this high that we ran out. We had these lows that we ran out. So we run the highs, we run the high, then we run the lows. So that's called, there's a term for it, I'm not going to say it, but you have a high, a low, you run the high, you run the low, and then you go. So that's another, like, a variation of demand that I like seeing. Run the high, run the low, and go. So that's what we got. High, taken out, lows, taken out, and then we go. Now, could we get a test down here? Yeah. Does it look like it's going to test? No, it doesn't, honestly, but that's okay, because then we can just look at the new demand that's formed on our way up. So you can see
that's kind of the same thing with gold did. I actually got into a small buy with gold just now, just from like the same kind of structure.
Yeah, so let's see.
I have it coming up to like it is like 1789 450-ish. There's a 15-minute candle or a 10-minute candle, depending on which one, but it's a supply candle that I took out liquidity. So that's why I have it coming to.
Oh yeah, see, look at all this. So you had all these highs right here. All these highs taken out with this candle. Yeah, this candle here. And if you want to, you could even use the wick, because that's what really ran it out. So there's the wick that took all that liquidity. And then this ran out this low. So if it starts forming bullish structure, let's see. There was actually, you could have caught it down here. I had a position on it, but yesterday morning, what ended up happening was we had this low here that people were going to try to buy off of, because this low made this high, and then we had a retracement and we were trending up. So people were going to try to buy it in here. But the issue with doing that, so I trade like 3 pairs.
I definitely did that. And I got a little bit in profit, but then it took me out break even, and I saw that it ran the low one more time. So
yeah, like right here, if I'll use this. So it ran the low, and then this is where I took my trade, because I saw that it was probably going to do that. This was just, there's huge imbalance right below the wick. There's also really clear demand. This is the consolidation that we had before the actual push up. So I was monitoring price here, and it never ended up breaking it. It actually tested it once, twice, and then it decided to go from there. But now current price, if you get a break above, if we break above here, it's probably going to go long, because it looks like EU just traded below this or above this and actually took out the high. So that's why you want to wait for structure to actually break, because if you don't, it's just going to do stuff like this. It did exactly what I talked about. You don't wait for a BOS. So then you get a push down, it pushes up, tests it, and then goes. And now you're stopped out of this position here because you didn't ever actually break counter trend structure. Like this just kept trading up, and you didn't, for people who weren't patient, they just got stopped out. Same thing here. Like if you were trying to sell this within here, because you could have, this buy to sell before the down move, you could have tried to just blindly take it off this, but there was no structure that ever broke. So you trade into it, you don't break anything, and then you just, of course, keep pushing up because price is supporting a bullish bias, right? But as of now, I don't see, I mean, there are a couple things that we could trade now on EU. You can actually be looking for buys now. Because let's break it down. It's always important to carefully break stuff down. Does anybody have any questions? I'll look at, here, let's look at, send, if you can, who asked, I forgot. Michael, if you want to send your trading view chart in here so I can see what you're referring to with G-Chef, go ahead and do that, and then we can go over it. But yeah, I trade EU, GU. I put gold on here because it follows structure nicely, but then I also look at US 30. So let's see, let's break down the structure on here so we can make sure we're not missing anything. All right. So for me, we made a new low on the higher time frame. Okay. Zoom out a little bit. Kind of wicked it out, but it did make a new low. So you guys can see the structure here. We're just selling off, right? Boom, sell off, pull back, sell off, pull back. Now within this, what do we have? We have this structure. Here's the pullback here, hardly a pullback, but I mean, it did serve the purpose of mitigating orders up within here. So, right, retracement down, retracement down, retracement down. Now this here, right, this did make a new low, or it at least created equal lows. But now look at this. So this is why it's important to be wary of these things. So let's look. So we have, this is our current leg to the downside. I see people in the chat. Our signals chat, I should be screen sharing. If you guys can't see it, let me know, but I am screen sharing right now. So you guys can see, right, that we had this high create. Now these are relatively equal lows. So we had this high create these relatively equal lows. So now are we going to take them out? I don't know. That's difficult to determine because we actually just ran out. So we ran these lows here, ran this low here, right? So now is it a matter of these are still equal lows and we're going to wick this high to drop more? Or is this a break of structure on the lower time frame right here to pull back and mitigate the positions that took out all this liquidity? Let's see. So, and I think I already said it, but with the signals chat, the VIP, Caleb was asking. So we send out our own signals in the VIP service. That's all us. Now the Wyckoff continuous education is where I send my signals and where a lot of members send signals. And we actually have a few really good members. So shout out to them. They know who they are. That will also be part of the supply and demand course. So when you purchase, or if you decide to purchase the supply and demand, it's going to come with that chat and you'll be added into it. So it's going to be like a mix between Wyckoff and supply and demand. And we have a ton of people in there who just send trade ideas. And we talk like every morning. This morning I didn't because I was doing stuff for the course and getting everything good. But yeah, that will come with the supply and demand course. And there are signals in there, like not formal signals, but for me, like I'll send out trades that I'm actually taking, and a lot of members send out trades that they're actually taking. So it's a collaborative kind of group environment where we all just look at charts and send them together and give input. So if you're interested, supply and demand course will be coming out soon. It's going to be a lot cheaper than the Wyckoff course. So you kind of get access to that chat for a lower price, but the price will go up after the first 20 purchases. So anyway, let's go to the 1 minute. So let's think about this from a logical perspective. This high is what really gave us the fuel to create this low. So if we are going to go long, do we expect it to break this? No, we don't expect it to. Could it? Yeah, it definitely could. But that's not the anticipation because this is the higher time frame structure. So higher time frame structure, right? We don't anticipate this breaking, okay? We don't, it could, but again, don't expect it. That's all I'm saying, because a lot of people are going to expect it to break. Don't do that. That's not how you should be trading. Higher time frame leg produced this low here, right? Produced this low. So don't anticipate a break above the origin of this move. Where's the origin? For me, this is all really, really choppy, but there is an untested supply region right here that we could definitely drive into. Not tested. So we could get a run up into here. Now, for me, does this constitute a BOS? Yes, this does. This is a BOS right here. Relatively impulsive, but it was a strong close above, and we didn't just, so one of the things I talk about is when I see BOSs, I want to see like a steady push and close above. I don't want to see this. I want to see that. So did we close above very slowly and steadily? Not necessarily, but we also didn't just go up and then shoot back down, right? So for me, this is a BOS. Break structure. So BOS. Now, where do we have demand areas? This is demand that's already been tested a little bit, right? This is demand. We broke above, we're testing it now. Could it head up from here? Yes, it definitely could, but we also have demand a bit lower. This is demand right here. You guys can see consolidation. Here's a low, we run out below and then we shoot up. This is demand. Now, where is the last area of demand within this leg? The last area of demand is really down here. This is also kind of the origin of this push up. So we swept out this low, swept out this low, we swept out this low, and we mooned, right? This is the origin. We could get a retracement back into here to continue up, or it could continue up from here, depending on what price wants to do. So we'll wait for structure to form, potentially. It would be nice if we got something like,
I have a question.
yeah.
So I know you said you trade on the 1 minute most of the time. So that first POI, how do you are you setting a limit there, or are you waiting for that mini breaker structure?
So yeah. So like with this, it's so on the 1 minute, that's like the lowest time frame that the institutions are going to use. Like they're not going to drop down to like the 10-second or anything crazy like that. So my rule and kind of how I look at things is like, if I'm just playing off a 1 minute structure, that's like the lowest time frame. That's like the smallest structure you can find, right? So if you're seeing something like this and you have a POI here, I'll set a limit like this and expect it to go long. But like, let's say price is like this, and then we start getting like a slow and steady retracement on the 1 minute like this, then I'll wait for a BOS. But it depends, because sometimes the 1 minute will do this because it's like the absolute lowest time frame you can look at for all intents and purposes. Like the institutions, like I said, aren't going to be using 10-second structure. 10-second structure exists, but it's not like they're trading it, you know? So if it does this and just starts to kind of move in a straight line towards price, then I'll just set a limit. But if we get a move like this, where it's like we're following structure and then it starts to stall out a little bit and it actually starts forming like microstructure, then I'll wait for it to break. And I'm not just going to set a limit right here, because now on the 1 minute, we have price like being actually supported by or pushed down by structure, right? There's structure within this that's keeping price or pushing price lower, and it can end up just respecting it like this, going lower. And like this is an example of that. So you see how here it didn't start like this is your leg, and the retracement wasn't like this, like just a steady push. We actually, what we did is we pushed up, had this, and now we'll probably get something like this. And then I'd look for a BOS here to continue up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's, Michael dropped his trading view chart. You know, so for some reason it would not work. Try to drop it again. It could have been the link. But here, like let's put the trade on the screen so you guys can see. Like with levels like this, you almost always get a reaction. And if you want to be cheeky, you can put it at the wick. And if you wanted to, you could just target this high because this is the most recent high. So it could be, your entry could be here, it could be right here where this buy to sell is, or it could be all the way within the wick. That would obviously be the best risk to reward, right? So we'll wait to see what this does, but I would be surprised if it respected here, because honestly, there's a ton of imbalance within this leg. And if we go to like maybe the 4 minute or 5 minute, this is, yeah, see, this is the candle that actually took the lows right here. So I expect a deeper pullback, but it could still respect this demand level because this is a valid area. And you can see from a fractal perspective, low ran out, and then price actually comes to mitigate this wick here. Trades right into that wick and then goes up. So this is a good area for demand, honestly, but we have a ton of imbalance, and this is a really clear origin of the move. So I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up coming all the way back down to here. GU is just trending. So now we have a BOS. We could actually be good to go long, which is really exciting because I wanted it to go long for a really long time. Could enter like this. I apologize for the dog. I'm sure you guys can hear her. So we broke this. That means this is invalid. This is invalid. These are equal highs, but this, so I mean, honestly, like this could trade so much higher. And if you want, for me, this is really the last area of structure, like in this leg down. We actually anticipated this move down. I called it out on our Sunday call. I said that this was the high that produced this low. We should honestly create a lower low or tracement in the lower low, and it actually traded all the way down into here. I didn't send out a trade on it because it wasn't not like I didn't get a perfect entry on it, and I wasn't going to send out anything that wasn't really good to you guys. That's just how I like trading. I want stuff to be good. So we didn't get an entry on this, but we traded all the way back down into this demand. I've been eyeing this since we had a breaker structure right here. And people who have been on the calls can attest to that. Yes, I have small stop losses and I risk 1%. Someone asked that. The people who have been on the calls can attest to the fact that I've been looking at this and that I wanted it to sell off from here. And my entry missed right here by like 3 pips. I was so pissed off, but it's whatever. So this is the high. It really produced this low. So we could trade all the way back up into here. This is supply. We could trade all the way back up into this supply before we actually short off. So if you want, you could. Now this is confirmed for me. This is definitely a break of structure to the upside. This is a BOS. This is a better BOS, stronger, more significant. We're now bullish on the lower time frames. We have equal highs here. We have equal highs right here. That could be your first target. And then, but more importantly, I mean, we have this. Here's a little structure within here. Now let's mark off the 50% of this. This is just a really big buy to sell candle. 50% right here, right? 1.3665. So if you want, take your trade into that 1 to 8. This could work, or price could potentially trade down into the origin. It doesn't matter, but it's always a shame when you get these areas and they end up holding and you just miss the trade. So this could work out. I'm actually looking at that EU. You can see it's reacting off of this level now, but it formed structure down. So what it can do is go like this and then respect it and head back down, because this is a buy to sell. So yeah, that's really all I'm looking at. Now, the reason I actually kind of like this is because it's consolidation, and then it's a run on this wick low, and then we went. So that kind of validates it for me. I'm definitely looking at that. Let me move this back over. So looking at this, and the reason, again, that it's good is if you look here, this is a good perspective on it. This is a leg. This is a little break below. This is supply, technically. Test, test, test. It fails to hold because of this demand. So if you trade into this demand, you can expect a push to the upside. Now, this is also forming a little bit of structure, so you could wait. But I am looking at this. It did break structure. It should be good to head up. In my opinion, we can monitor this. I'm only going to be on for a couple more minutes, so I'm turning it over to you guys to determine if you're going to enter it or if you want to jump into this trade. But here are my POIs. I'll lay them out for you guys. First one right here. Second one, you can see we had these wicks. This one ran them out by practically nothing. More importantly, this is the low that really caused this high to be formed. You guys can see this break of structure retracement, right? Retracement, this is the low that made the high. Could come down into here, might just test this and go. We'll have to see. Now this is the origin of this push up that broke this leg down. So this is like the last point of return down here. So until we trade back below this, I'm not bullish on it. We can target good area is right here. 50% of this really big buy to sell. So I'm really liking this actually. We'll see. You guys can see it's respecting this little structure, but yeah, that's really all I'm looking at right now. Do you guys have any quick questions? I'm about to look in the chat, but let me know quickly if you have any. So for yes, yeah, like the origin of the move is a good area because it's where like the last sell to buy, or depending on the trend, buy to sell was. Yeah, see, look, this is already up 1-1. The origin, this is the last sell to buy that really caused this move up, so that's why it's a good POI. Yeah, you can. These are good areas to look for trades. You always want to wait for breaks of counter trend structure when you get to them though, and they function as nice regions to enter, just because it's like the final, it's like the last point of return, and last point of return areas are very probable because it's like the last part or the last region you can actually trade into to maintain your bullish structure in this case. So that's why I like trading them, but it's a preference. I do like to see deep retracements though, because honestly, a lot of the times you'll notice that you do get deep retracements when you're looking to enter positions. That's why like the 38.2 level on a fib doesn't really ever work. At least in my opinion, it hardly ever works. It's because the banks like to have deeper retracements in price. It's just something I've kind of noticed over time. Oh my gosh, look at that. Gotta love that. Yeah, so you guys can see it. It would just be so hilarious if this missed, but really can't do anything about that. But this trade, that I don't even know what this is, up 1 pip and it's up 4, so that's a 1 to 4 already. And it's just, like I said, trading within wicks. I'm telling you guys, powerful stuff. Trading within wicks is like a cheat code. It's honestly insane how well it works. So that's a nugget for you guys. Take that, use it. It works. I promise. You can see though, what are we doing? We're having reluctance to break because of this structure here. So, and GU needs to mitigate. So that could also be what's happening, is GU is going to make one more push down, and then EU is going to push down as well, because they move each other. If GU is going down, EU is likely going to be going down. But you guys can see, this is the idea of structure being respected. It's just here, here, here. It's respecting that. So see if GU hits. Send a trading view chart. But on the 4 hour you have, I wouldn't try to buy it, because that's below the current low that I'm looking at. So if you try to buy it, you're just going to be going against the trend. So I would say you don't need to send a chart. Don't try to buy GU below the swing low, because then you're just trying to buy when you're now technically in a downtrend. And especially if you don't wait for a lower time frame break of structure, that's dangerous, because price can just continue against you. So no, I would say that's invalid. See if there's anything else. You're welcome. We'll look at US 30 real quick and then we'll wrap it up. That's an uptrend. Here's supply right here. So you can definitely at least trade into that. Kind of bottomed out. US 30 actually does like to do this. Mark this up. Likes to bottom out like this, W patterns, whatever. It does that so often. Let's mark up this imbalance. This is just following bullish structure on the lower time frames, clearly. This was a layup. Right here. Low, low. Here's demand. Test demand. This is demand. Test it. Now this is also demand. You could get a test of this, but if it hits the imbalance first, don't try to buy it. That would be not wise. You can see this is accumulation. To calculate your pips, you can just, this will tell you this number in the middle says 3.9. So this is a 3.9 pip stop. Yeah, that's all I use to calculate pips. And then to calculate my position size, I use position size calculator from my FX book. That's all I use for it. I have an MT4 tool for my desktop, but I know a lot of people don't actually trade MT4 desktop. They just do it on their phone. Yep, you're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions? Going once, going twice, anybody?
Are you trading gold right now, or is that just on the list?
I don't really trade it often. It's on my list because it does follow structure nicely. I really like that about gold, but I mean, personally right now, no. It's just kind of there. I've been focusing on EU and GU a lot. And it looks like GU is testing the wicks. So it tested the wicks, not the bodies, but that's okay. And then EU is kind of chopping, but I think EU and GU for the day are probably going to head up, to be honest. It looks like that's what they're going to do. I mean, they've been trending down all week, and GU traded into a higher time frame POI. So it's pretty likely that they're going to head up.
Yeah, so does DJ as well. DJ is in the same spot as GU, almost identical.
Yeah, like a lot of these pairs, at least in my opinion, look like they're priming to have some type of retracement, because there has been no retracements on like any of these. Like, look at this. This is just like straight down. UCAD had this isn't terrible, but like UCAD has been flying. Look at this huge candle. Just, I don't even know how many pips that is. Use a pip tool. 175 in a day. This is like the biggest candle out of the price action from the past 8 months. It's been mooning, and like none of these pairs have had any retracements, especially yen pairs. You could have been playing this nonstop. So I'll talk about this real quick. I think UCAD's going to have, my recommendation on pairs to trade is like a couple. The course will be ready probably by Sunday. Caleb, it'll probably Sunday. Message us on Telegram if you're interested. I'll drop the username. So message us on Telegram. Anybody who's interested, that's our ad. And this is just, it needs to pull back, but could argue that it's bullish, maybe. However, we did just break this low. So I'm not, and I don't even look at it, but it needs to pull back. If it's going to keep going up, like this is such an imbalanced move. This is a really big sell to buy. It should trade back down before heading back up. So yeah, that's my perspective on that. See what GU is doing. EU just kind of chopping, but XXX USD is probably going to head up for the day. And that's all I got. I don't have anything else that I wanted to talk about with you guys. So if you have any questions, this is your last chance. It's crazy how this just keeps trending up. It's honestly wild. Yep, you're welcome, guys. I'm going to stop the recording.